Pol Belardi is one of the most famous jazz musicians in Luxembourg. Now you played a concert here as part of the Jazz Blues Rallye Luxembourg. How you found out this concept of the concert to make own arrangement of video game background musics?
Yes, that's because I found out that these video game musics had quite an impact on me as a musician and also a composer, because by the mere fact when I was a kid I played a lot of them, and you spent many hours in front of the screen playing these games, and I was always intrigued by the soundtrack, even if it seemed a bit, well, kind of basic, because there was not a lot of possibilities. The old Nintendo was 8-bit and then 16-bit maybe, and the sounds were quite like what you would call today MIDI-like maybe, and not really a lot of, but not a lot of possibilities. But these Japanese composers that wrote for these supports, that they really knew how to take the most out of this, and I think it was beautiful music, and also the thing is that most of them are loops that last maybe for 1 minute. So it's very similar to what we actually do in the jazz world with the jazz standard. That's also just a tune, a melody and some chords that lasts maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, and then that's just the base material and you improvise on it and you develop something more out of it. So I applied this typical jazz standard concept to this video game music that I transcribed. And that's about how it came together actually. I asked these people to play with me that are like friends of mine, but that play with me in other projects and that I could trust. And I think also like one of the, I always had this idea in my head, but then one of the opportunities we had was to play a concert at LuxCon, which is like a convention for like video games and fantasy background people. And that was a perfect match because they wanted a concert in this venue in Neumünster, and at the same time there was like the convention of these people, and it was a good opportunity to like finally put the project together.
How is the jazz scene in Luxembourg and generally the music scene as of, for example, at the Eurovision? Luxembourg won the Eurovision not with local artists, but like Serge Gainsbourg as composer and France Gall as singer, or Vicky Leandros. They weren't local artists who won for Luxembourg as country, but also there's a huge music scene. And also at the public service channel there is an own program for the local music scene, the Music Box. So how can you describe the Luxembourg music scene and especially the jazz scene?
It is small like the country, but there is in this microcosm a lot of talent and a lot of different things happening, especially in the past 20 years I'd say. There's always small batches of very nice musicians, like the generations before me already, those guys like, I don't know, Michel Reis or Jeff Herb, Maxime Bender, they were my heroes that I was looking up to. They had their heroes the generation before, like during the 70s and the 80s, that were already active then, and actually they inspired the younger generation as well, and also, I mean, I feel already middle-aged, let's say, because there's a whole bunch of young people like the bands that were also playing here today, Mathieu Clement and Daniel Migliosi. They are way younger than I, and they are so immensely talented, and they're just doing things right, and it's going in the right way. I think, yeah, like I say, I speak for the jazz scene, but also in general there is a lot of quality. We shouldn't hide from bigger countries. It's just on a smaller scale because the country is so small, which can also have advantages because it's kind of, it feels like a big family in a way. Everybody knows each other, everybody supports each other as I feel it, and it's nice. It's like really an inspiring scene in a way, because as soon as there is a new project we are going to check it out, and yeah, it's like kind of nourishing each other, and it's a good climate, I think. So I invite everybody to discover this small but very valuable scene.
You are from the agglomeration of Esch-sur-Alzette, what is an industrial region, but it had been a European cultural capital lately. How was this transformation from an industrial region, which also had quite huge problems in employment and other things, into a cultural center? Was it successful, similarly to Linz, for example, or in Austria a decade before? Or is it still not so a cultural but more an industrial, heavy industrial region?
Let's say it's getting there. I mean, that's something that of course was done a bit more intensely during the cultural year, so transforming some of the existing industrial buildings into cultural centers, and not only for that year but that are maintaining. But it is something that has been done also before, so it's kind of impressive. Next to Esch there is Belval, which is actually an old iron industry site that has actually grown now into a whole new city in a way. Not only cultural, but it also has the university, it has businesses, it has shopping centers, it has living, and in the middle of that you still see the big towers from the melting and from the industrial side. So that's something that I think is quite nice. It has been done also before. One of the actually nice cultural centers from Esch is called the Kulturfabrik, which was an old slaughterhouse, and it started out as, I hear, well, it stopped being a slaughterhouse and it was kind of a squat, so people were just living there and creating art and doing whatever they wanted, and then it turned into a righteous cultural center with a more alternative scene, which is actually really nice. I think a lot of the projects that were there were met with a lot of success, and there is something sustainable from there. And it's also just a way to pull the attention to culture. So many people around there that are not really knowing that these cultural centers are there. And if you read it in every newspaper, we do it now, there's culture and it's accessible to everybody. I think we can open these doors to all the people and not only the ones that already know that they are there.
Have you ever played in Hungary and surroundings like Slovakia, Romania and other countries in Middle East Europe?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've once played in Budapest Music Center with the band Teleport. It's a quartet with Zenia Stringelev on saxophone, like Russian, London-based saxophone player. And I've been part of a project that in Slovakia that was called Crisscross Europe. From 4 European countries there was always one musician, and then we played in Košice also. Yeah.
What are your plans for the near future?
My plans for the next season, I mean now it's summer, so I try to resource myself and get my energy a bit back because it's been a tough one now. There's a few festivals coming up now, but next big projects for next year will be a new project with 2 very, very dear friends of mine, where we don't know yet where it's going. We just booked a residency where we will together for 5 days and create whatever comes to our minds. Then I'll launch a new vibraphone piano duo, where I play the vibraphone together with Jerome Klein. Yeah, these are the biggies, but there's also lots of smaller ideas, for instance like recording this material that we played today. So yeah, and then people often ask me to compose music for film or for theater pieces, so I guess these kind of commissions keep coming, and a lovely mix between teaching, because I also teach, performing on stage and creating music. That's what I strive for, finding balance between all these and a bit of private life as well.